Now the question is, what does it look like, right? Because that's always to me, that's a theoretical and practical question, right? What does it look like, right? So his thing was, Eric Yamamoto created a legal clinic for garment workers, i.e. sweatshop workers in downtown LA, right? He set up a legal clinic for them, right? Free of charge, but to say, look, you're being exploited as workers. Here's a way to demand your rights and get fair pay. So for me, I try to transition that into education and say, well, look, we know this thing historically is happening in education and people are getting locked out of access to college, right? So what can I do in this process? So I was on a design team for the formation of a high school called Social Justice High School, right? The idea was, now that we have this school, how do we get access for these young folks to college? Real simple. Enroll them in their senior year. First part of class, welcome to college. I'm actually a professor, and I know them since I've been teaching them since they were freshmen, right? So yeah, y'all in college right now. Here's your IDs, here's your library pass. Let's get it cracking. Grades, GPAs were not a concern. I wrote the letter to the vice provost of the fax machine, whatever position that they have, that oversees college admissions. You know, I think anytime that if you have over 4 words in your title, you might not be too sure of what it means yourself. So this whole notion around, so I wrote the letter and said, look, okay, I got this group of young folks. They have been at a school. I've been teaching them since they were freshmen. They are very accomplished students. Let me and another colleague, Rico Gutstein, who's a math educator, said, let me enroll, let's enroll them. All right, let's give them, and when we set it up, me and Rico kind of cracked this joke. He was like, damn, do you know what we are asking? Then Rico was like, man, hey, hell with it, man. Look, all they can do is say no, right? So we went to the gate, and I met with our assistant dean, and she looked at it, and her eyes lit up. She was like, oh, for real? That's what y'all do? Oh, yeah. And then she said, oh, yeah, we'll pay for that. Oh, damn, right? For real, y'all gonna pay for this, all right? So this whole notion around how do we structure that, but again, real world knowledge, not just for the sake of engaging in rhetorical practice, but for the sake of actually pushing the envelope around putting our theory to practice. So if we look at critical race theory and we say, less time abstract theorizing, more time with on-the-ground issues of justice, this is a way that it could look. Now, there are thousands of other manifestations that it could take, right? But this is just one. But I want to push us around thinking about that, right? Because you all as graduate students, future educators, future lawyers, future faculty members, you will get chided by other faculty members about this. You know, that the first thing that came out of the mouth, right? Don't do this, you'll never get tenure. Right? You'll never get tenure. You know, they will hang one faculty member told me once, he said, they will tar and feather you, child. And I was like, oh. But at the same time, it's like, look, you know, if that's the case, so be it. I mean, it's kind of, you know, we talk about a righteous indignation. It's like, man, look, I have to take Assata Shakur's line, right? We have nothing to lose but our chains, right? And that's serious talk to me, because I know if I go back and capitulate, and then I'm at stiff-ass AERA, and I'm talking to people, and you know, folks are running in a random whoever from NSF or NIH is saying, well, you know, we have this grant and we want to do such and such and such and such, and then I don't listen to them critically, I'm contributing to the further marginalization and disenfranchising of the neighborhoods and places that I come from. The question becomes, how do I interrupt that paradigm? But again, not by myself, right? Because that's quick. That's a quick way. One of my homies always says, that's a quick way to get shot, right? You can be if you think about it in the schoolhouse, right? You're in the faculty meeting, you're in the teacher evaluation meeting or the faculty meeting, you just stand up and say, this policy is bullshit. Principal, boom, right? You dead in the water, right? That's 2 in your head right there. right? But if you're in a meeting and 20 of y'all out of 30 stand up and say, this is some bullshit, and then the principal has to go, oh, well, maybe, right? But this whole notion around really being clear about this, so I'm not saying this to stand in some kind of Lone Ranger, savior, missionary type piece. That is exactly the opposite of what I'm putting forward. I want to put forward the challenge to think about how can we do this work, how can we do this work with the support of allies, and how do we hold ourselves accountable? And one of those things around holding ourselves accountable is being very clear about the spaces in which we have failed, right? And I'm trying to write about that right now. A dismal failure that could have potentially changed some things in terms of the formation of the school that I currently work with. So again, being very clear about that and not having that as dismissive as non-objective. In fact, this is the thing that I would argue that burgeoning researchers or faculty members need to know when they come into this gate. It's like teaching, right? So, we were talking about it earlier this morning. You kind of had this thing. First year teacher comes into the class, and the students say, get the hell out of here. What the hell is wrong with you? This is some garbage. And you get a book thrown at you. Then you go, oh my God, I got to leave. Right? But we haven't looked deeper into, well, for maybe 10 years before they even got to you, everybody before you has told them that they are worthless, has proven to them that they are disposable. Right? Now you got to interrupt the paradigm. Have fun. Right? And that's why we leave. That's why we see teachers leave after year 3. Right? Because we don't support them. Right? So my way of supporting said, no, I'm not just going to leave you hanging. I'm going to teach right next to you. So ain't nobody messing up about you messing up, because I messed up too. Right? So one of the things around talking to my students, my students have a nickname for me. They call me low tech. They be like, Doc, you low tech. It's like, you ain't got no PowerPoints. You don't even be having a computer. You keep your computer in your book bag. Dag, dude. Come on, man. You got to get with the times, man. Get on Facebook. And I'm like, no, I got other stuff to do. And they say, well, look, Doc, we going to get you into, and they really get into their jokes. So they say, Doc, we're going to get you into the 20th century. We're going to show you how to do PowerPoint right, not the little squigglies that you be trying to create, right? And I let them do it. It's like, okay, show me what's cracking, blah, 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 blah. And that whole, so, I don't know, in Boulder public schools or Denver public schools, do you all, are social networking sites and places like YouTube banned in the public school system? Yeah, we can't use that in Chicago. Man, I said to my students, I was like, man, it's this YouTube video, but I can't show y'all. One of my students looked at me and said, Doc, do you need to get on YouTube? And he said, do you need? And he said, look. And he changed 100% adult. He's like, I'm only going to ask you this once. Right? Do you need to get on YouTube? I said, surely. Right? And he said, but the understanding was, you're not going to be in trouble for this. We're trying to get a piece to meet standard X.2.9.8.13, whatever the hell the state has put forward. Right? And that would be my defense. And his thing was like, yeah, and he got the whole hacking thing. Man, he had an interface with his phone, and he was like, yeah, they be changing the code every day. So, no. And I'm like, damn, right? And then a little, okay, you good, Doc. And I'm like, whoa, right? And the thing is, why isn't that understood as literacy? Right? But this whole notion around, why do we not understand that as the processes that could potentially change how we think, talk, and act, right? So that's what teaching is for me, right? But again, there's struggles in this. This is not easy, come into, light shine on your head, everything is all good with the world type work, right? There will be days when you will go home and question your existence, right? You're going to have to make that decision between you and bourbon. Right? You and a bad habit, right? But that whole notion around really being clear about that and saying, I'm not being clear about not being by yourself, right? So again, going back to this language of the gap, I'm not resident with that language. I think that language is problematic. I think we need to return to the understanding of that as debt, right? As debt, as an unpaid debt that we need to engage. And engage in a particular way. Engage in a way that might get you in trouble. I won't say this, I won't say this thing lightly, right? Remember, DJ, Subimi, Deb, y'all invited me. I get at least two to three rejections to invites a month, right? I think YouTube has something to do with it. So the camera situation here might add to that, right? And what do they say? What's the language that they use, right? We talked about rhetoric today. What's the language that they use? They say, well, Stovall, we've decided to go in a different direction, right? And, the other side of that is that direction does not include you, right? They try to be slick with it or what have you, but this whole notion around, if we're going to be serious about shaking it up, it's not shaking it up to get on Oprah, right? It's shaking it up because we know what our young folks are faced with, right? And that whole notion around being clear about that, so when it comes time, we are not justifying our existence to the powers that be. We are already clear about what it is that we will do, how we will defend it, and how we will build with others in creating a larger space to do it. So let me quote from Harvey Milk. I am here to recruit you to get in trouble because there is nothing left. We have nothing to lose. And they get us with trinkets around what we have to lose. Oh, if you do this, we'll make you full professor, right? Or if you do this, we'll give you that research assistant. My thing is, so what? The bottom line is, I will not contribute to the fact of further marginalizing the young folks who are in similar situations as my own, because I know that I am not here by myself, and if it was not for the folks who had my back when I was getting in trouble, getting suspended from kindergarten, first grade, second, third grade, that I would not be here. And I'm clear about that. And I don't feel a need to justify that. And that's not anything about having a PhD. I could care less. The idea was to go to a space and use those resources and bring it back to the blocks that I came from, period. I have nothing else to justify, right? And they can do, they can do what they will. They get what they pay for, right? And sometimes that, again, gets you excluded from the meetings. Folks have a meeting and tell everybody about you. That's part of the piece. But again, I continue in this work, but again, I want to say that in closing, that it's important that I understand all the time that I'm not by myself and that I work collectively with people. And that's the testament to the type of work that's ahead of us in very troubling times. And I think we should be very clear about how troubling those times are and the work that we need to do. So let me stop there. Thank you all again.